With that, Lucas Vebber is the deputy counsel for the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. The group is arguing the bill violates the federal law and the state constitution. He joins us now. Hey, Lucas, good to see you.
Hey, good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
We'll get into the argument in a second. First, I'm just curious your broad reaction from what we heard of the head of Potawatomi and the governor who's still considering this.
Yeah, so there's a lot of talk about, is this the hub and spoke model? That relates to the Federal Indian Gaming Regulatory Act and whether, where the bet itself is placed. Our concern is more with the state law that was just adopted and whether the legislature even has the authority to pass that law. 30 years ago, the people of Wisconsin took away their power to do so. I don't think there's really any doubt the legislature simply can't pass this bill. They can't authorize gambling in any form. That's what the Constitution says, and that's exactly what this bill would do. So whether the governor signs it or not, the bill can't take effect.
Lucas, Will sent out a 12-page memo outlining the argument in November about why you say that this legislation is unconstitutional. Can you give us a snapshot of what the argument is all about here?
Yeah, so under the Wisconsin Constitution, Article 4, Section 24, an amendment about 30 years ago, right as tribal gaming was taking root here in Wisconsin, the people adopted an amendment which says the legislature may not authorize gambling in any form. What this legislation would do is it amends the definition of a bet to allow certain bets that would otherwise be illegal in Wisconsin and are currently illegal in Wisconsin to no longer be considered a bet under state law. The definition gets changed so that they can place those bets with servers that are located on tribal land. So what that legislation does is it authorizes a form of gambling, and that's specifically and explicitly prohibited by the Wisconsin Constitution.
Back to what you just said a minute ago. So if the governor does sign this, are you going to file a lawsuit?
Yeah, whether it's us or another group that's out there, I certainly expect that this legislation ends up in court. Absolutely.
And what will the ask of the court be?
I think simply to declare the legislation unconstitutional. I think it's, again, pretty clear that what the legislature did here was purport to use power that the people of Wisconsin took away from them. The legislature can't do that. And that would be the ask to a court here. There are other potential challenges that we outlined in our legal memo to gaming more generally on this, and I think some of those could also be brought potentially as well.
There was a lot of lobbying leading up to the Senate vote on this particular legislation. What's happening behind the scenes right now as we await a decision from the governor on whether to sign it?
I don't know exactly who the governor's talking to or what his timeline is on that. Obviously, once the bill goes to the governor has 6 days to sign it, or it would automatically, or to veto it, or it would automatically become law. So we're just kind of in a wait and see mode here to see what happens, and then after that would decide next steps on our end.
Yeah, as Jaron mentioned, clearly there was a lot of talk leading up to these votes in both the Assembly and Senate. Would your position change if this bill was wide open, say if FanDuel and DraftKings would be able to participate in this as well?
No, I think that wouldn't change the fact that the legislature just doesn't have the ability to do it. There is a legal way that they could do this. They would have to amend the Constitution. First amend the Constitution to give the legislature back the power to authorize gambling. And once they had that power, the legislature could do whatever they'd want with it. But until they do that, the legislature just can't pass this bill.
Lucas Vebber with the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. Lucas, like I always say, we appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.